center. Oh, he slipped and he fell down. Trevor fell down on the play. Now he's going to try and run in. He's in the end zone. Touchdown. Trevor ran it in. He ran it in. Touchdown. He got up. He fell down to the flag in the end zone. It's against Kansas City. Trevor Lawrence ran it in. Touchdown, Jacksonville.
The messiest, most fun touchdown from the messiest, most fun team. That was Trevor Lawrence winning in the way that only Trevor Lawrence and this Jaguars team can win. 31-28. Great call there by Frank Frangie and Jeff Lageman on WJXL. Nick Shook is with me on this Monday night. We are welcoming in everyone watching live on YouTube. We appreciate you. And Nick, we talked last week. We devoted an entire segment to this Jaguars team, just saying there's something strange and delightful and ultimately effective about this team. And they showed up tonight, and they showed exactly what we were talking about. A statement win, if I ever saw one, by what these Jaguars are all about. They beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
Look, they came for a fight. They stayed in the fight all the way to the end, and they battled their tails off, including Trevor getting up after falling down in the pocket and scoring the go-ahead touchdown. Look, I tweeted this, and I think this is about the best way I can describe this. It's like a car crash that you can't look away from, because it's like demolition derby and you came for the crash, but it's also like a Formula One crash in which context the last thing that you want, and it's just chaos, and yet somehow it produces a victory. The Jaguars, they may not be the most organized team, the most efficient team, especially operationally, but they are one of the most entertaining teams in the NFL through 5 weeks.
They really are. And you know what? They're going to stay in the center of the NFL. The next couple of weeks, they have the Seahawks at home, and then they go overseas to play the Rams. Speaking of overseas, we just got a comment from our guy Will Gavin, who I was doing a show with in London only 24 hours ago, and he wants to nominate that throw to Brian Thomas Jr. on 3rd and long on the final drive for the Jaguars as one of the throws of the year. I hereby agree. Let's put that on the board. And I think, Nick, that final drive and really this game overall helps to define who Trevor Lawrence is, because you get the bad, you get the delay of game at, the 2nd and down with the clock running down, and you go back 5 yards and you're thinking, what is Trevor Lawrence thinking? Stuff like this happens too often. And yet, just before that, he had that dime to Brian Thomas Jr. on the sideline. He had a great throw to De'Ami Brown. And then finally, he has a play that you think, oh my gosh, they're going to blow it. He trips over his center at the line of scrimmage, and you think that's a dead play. They're going to I think they were out of timeouts at that point, right? Or did they have to they would have had to blow their last timeout. And instead he gets up and he finds his way into the end zone. Just a wild roller coaster of a game. And maybe that's who Trevor Lawrence is. But right now, I think he's got more support around him than he's ever had.
Yeah, he does. He has more support in the form of Brian Thomas Jr. in Bashal Tootin and Travis Hunter on the offensive side, who made some nice plays tonight. In an offensive line that is sneakily pretty solid. And a coach who tries his best to scheme up plays to his strengths. Now, once you snap the ball to Trevor Lawrence, there's no telling if it's actually going to go according to plan. We saw that plenty, but it's the strength of this Jaguars team and a defense, by the way, that was very punchy tonight. And a team overall that did not get knocked back by whatever Kansas City did to counter them. I mean, they fought from start to finish. Yes, they had the home field advantage. It was an exciting night on prime time, national stage, all that stuff. But it truly does start with your quarterback. And despite the chaotic nature that he brings to the field, very early stage Josh Allen in Trevor Lawrence's game, even to this point in his career, he's still one of the more talented guys in the league. That's why he was seen as a consensus number 1 pick when he came out of Clemson. And he still has the arm to make the throws that put you in the position to win games like this. That throw down the sideline was a thing of beauty and reminded us all of the talent that he's working with. It's just, sometimes he's a little off the rails, even if it does produce a win.
Yeah, so we'll keep talking Lawrence, because I do want to go back through the game and talk about how we got there. It was a wild game. Ultimately, the Chiefs move the ball about as well as they have in the last season and a half. They finished with 465 yards, I think, overall, and a success rate over 70%. I bet if you put those numbers together, Nick, 476 yards overall, and yeah, a success rate of 68% once you add in those last couple plays where they couldn't get anything done. Normally you win about 80 to 90% of those games, but the Jaguars made enough big plays throughout the game to make it happen. Let's go back to one of those plays, because to me, the game really changed when Devin Lloyd had an interception that reminded me so much of James Harrison picking off Kurt Warner in the Super Bowl. Let's listen.
Right, plus Kelsey, who's slotted over there. Dropping his Mahomes. Fires middle of the field. Ball's intercepted! The ball is picked off! Are you kidding me? Devin Lloyd bringing it back again! Along the left sideline! 50, 45, 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown! 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 Devin Lloyd with the length of the field! Yet another interception! Jacksonville is taking the lead! How good is that?
Now, I'm no X's and O's expert here. I'm no Nick Shook or Ollie Connolly or anything like that. But it reminded me of that Harrison play, because I think, he was supposed to blitz on that play, or he was blitzing, but he knew it wasn't really going to get there. And so he just sort of had a vibe and he backed up. And that's a tough play for Patrick Mahomes to really be able to read. I think it's more of just a great play by a guy in Devin Lloyd, Shook, who's been having an unbelievable season.
Yeah, last week he had a couple of interceptions made in coverage when it was designed for him to be in coverage, and he read and reacted to those plays. But to this play in particular was a prime example of a football player just playing instinctively, of sensing the moment and just making a football play and using his instincts to make that play. And that's exactly what he did. And then the takeoff down the sideline, he looked like he was out of gas at his own 40. He still had another 60 yards to go. According to Next Gen, he covered a total distance of 116.8 yards. He had a top speed of 18.92 miles per hour. And anybody who's ever gone through conditioning for football and they've had to run hundreds, which is like hell on earth, they understand exactly what that labored stride was down the field, where you're just trying to get to the end of the long sprint. Except Devin Lloyd had the football in his arm, and he was also getting chased by a member of the Chiefs all the way down to the goal line. I was shocked that he didn't get tripped up inside the 5, but I was also so pleased to see that he didn't get tripped up, because it made for one of the highlight plays of the year.
Yeah, I think that drive, that play, and him being so tired there what really set up the rest of the game, where the Jaguars were just on the field so much. So one of the reasons I think he was so tired there is that wrapped up an 11-play drive in which they, ate up 6 minutes and 21 seconds on the clock. So he's out there doing everything. He's in coverage. He's flying all over the place. And that's at the end of that drive. We're getting a comment from Teku Racer here that says it absolutely went insane when he was watching at work. And I love hearing from everyone where they're watching these games. And so they pick that off. It's late third quarter, it's mid third quarter, or early fourth quarter rather. And that gives the Jaguars a 21-14 lead. And the Jaguars defense then forces another punt. And at that point in the game, Shook, the Jaguars have a chance to really put things away. And instead, we get what unfortunately a lot of fans will say have happened a lot in the last few years, a very fortunate call. For a second, I thought we were going full Trevor Lawrence, brutal interception in a big spot, but the replay showed very clear pass interference that was missed by the officials and affected the play. And that sets up a 2-play touchdown drive, which tied it up. I was glad, Shook, that call ended up not being like the thing that we end up remembering about tonight.
Yeah, because I think it was such a good game that we didn't want something like this to come down to what happened with the officials. And there were multiple instances in which you could have seen a call go one or both ways. Early in this game, you had Trevor Lawrence getting the ball knocked out as he tried to reach it across the goal line for a touchdown, and it was close, and it goes the Chiefs' ways. And then even earlier in the game, they run a little pick play, as the Chiefs often do in short yard situations, and especially on the goal line, and they score a touchdown on a pass to Travis Kelce, and you see the flag immediately go out, and Patrick Mahomes is quickly arguing, no, we get 1 yard. It was about 1.5 yards, but they picked up the flag on the field, so they couldn't change it. Those calls go their way early. And I was just happy to see that they did decide this game on the field, especially with the chaotic ending that we got.
Yeah, and we should mention, too, for a second, it looked like the game was ending on a Trevor Lawrence interception on just the play before his game-winning touchdown, but they correctly called pass interference on that play, and it canceled out in interceptions and canceled out all the conspiracy theories. Ultimately, I don't think the officials made any egregiously bad calls except for that one PI, which was absolutely a brutal play. And so when that happened, we've just seen so many of these games where, okay, the Chiefs make the big mistake with the pick six. You think, wow, the Jaguars might get it done. And then the Chiefs respond right back. They get a lucky call. They tie the game. And then they go on a long fourth quarter touchdown drive. So Cam Little, after being set up with good field position, hits a long field goal for the Jaguars to go up 3. And then I thought, Shook, how we were going to lead this show was going to be talking about a very typical Chiefs drive that ends up being the game winner. 6 minutes, 12 plays, 86 yards. It includes a couple of Patrick Mahomes scrambles. Really nothing that blew you away. Great catch on the sideline by Marquise Brown. But another example tonight of what I thought was a really good Chiefs offense. I can't remember the last time I've said this in the last few years, Shook, but I actually think Chiefs fans should feel pretty good after a loss. This has been the team of like the opposite of moral victories. They've been winning games and feeling bad about it, kind of like the Eagles have been doing this year. I think this is a game where some crazy things happen and you're not thrilled that you're at 2-3. But if I'm a Chiefs fan, I am feeling pretty good about the direction of this offense, and that drive in the fourth quarter to me was another reason why.
Yeah, that was a steal your soul drive. That was an end the game drive. And I think in probably the first instance in this decade, we got an example of, oh no, you scored with too much time left on the clock for Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars, because that's ultimately what proved to be true. But yeah, it was a march. It was a methodical march, and Kareem Hunt finishes it off with the short touchdown run. And it felt like vintage Chiefs. Just, we are confident in what we can do. Patrick Mahomes, by the way, has been playing fantastic football all season, save for maybe the Giants game. And well, the second half, he was good in that game too. And he was doing it again, improvising, making plays out of structure, running, stumbling, keeping himself upright to pick up yards. All of the things that star quarterbacks need to do to propel their team forward. Mahomes has done it consistently all year, and he did it again tonight, and he did it on that drive. And it felt as if the Jaguars are now in the same spot they were in at the end of the first half, in which Liam Cohen questionably doesn't spend a timeout with about 1:40 left, and the Chiefs ready to punt it back to them. And then they try to run the little 2-minute offense at about 1:05 or whatever it was, and it was a disaster. And they get the ball back in a very similar situation, and I'm thinking there is no way this is going to work out for them based on what they did at the end of the first half. They were a disjointed mess. And early in their possession, they were a disjointed mess again. It was at times horrid. Trevor Lawrence taking sacks when he should throw the ball away. And yet the heroics end up producing a victory for them. But you're right. I'm not a fan of moral victories either. I'm not. But I like the way the Chiefs have played football this year. And I think that it's crazy that even though they were 1-3 at one point, that everybody was thinking, oh no, the Chiefs are in a bad spot. Or they were 1-2 going into that Baltimore game. Is this the end of the Chiefs? Another classic September eulogy. I know they lost tonight, but I think they're going to be just fine, even if they lost this game, and they're going to be there all the way through.
I do too. I just talked about how I feel good about this offense, but they do have the Lions next week, and so that just makes that game even bigger. And I love that about the NFL. Every time you get a loss early in the season, it just makes that next game, the next few games, even more desperate for a team like the Chiefs. And they have good teams in the division. The Chargers obviously not looking as good since they took on the injury to Joe Alt, but the Broncos are at 3-2, and it's just going to be more challenging. And even though there are good things to feel about the Chiefs, I think that the speed on their offense when they get Rashee Rice back is going to be fascinating to watch because you saw tonight Tyquan Thornton goes 3 for 90, and he's moved down in the depth chart with Xavier Worthy back on the field. Same thing with Hollywood Brown. It all just makes more sense, and I think they're going to be looking better. And yet, a loss is a loss, and at 2-3, you could be 2-4 next week. That is concerning. I'm glad you mentioned the fun stuff. They had the jump pass to Thornton. Did you mention that one? They had
but it was great.
The jump pass like way down the field to Thornton. You had I don't even know what to call it, where they were all spinning around and then they give the ball to Worthy. There does seem to be an excitement and a freedom now that Worthy's back on the field that like Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are just having more fun calling plays.
Yeah, I was worried when Worthy went down briefly in this game because I'm like, oh no, not again. Just when they're starting to hit their stride with him back in the picture. But I think you're absolutely right about Rashee Rice's role in this offense. That's why I say they're going to be just fine. They actually have a lot of talent at receiver, more than they did in previous years. Even Juju Smith-Schuster being a part of it. Hollywood Brown had a pretty nice game tonight, save for that last final drive when they couldn't move the ball in a desperate situation. I think that their offense is operating quite well. And I mean, you look at their yardage totals tonight. You talked about their success rate. They almost had 500 yards of offense. Yes, they lost this game, but we should not be taking them lightly by any means. And once they get Rice back, they're only going to be that much better. And I know that division is tough, but this is a team that's been there and done it before. And until you knock them off, I'm going to be a believer in them.
Yeah, we have one person in the chat, Junior, saying, tell Jordan to undo the Chargers curse. We are going to do some news on this show, so we will get to the Amarian Hampton to injured reserve news. And yes, I did receive a text from Jordan today saying I really cursed this team by calling them the best team in the NFL. It's a long way to go. You mentioned the Trevor fumble earlier in the game, and I do think that was part of just like the ultimate Trevor game. Let's go back to that moment, one in which I was like, oh man, this is how the Jaguars lose.
Lawrence a threat to sneak it here. 4th down and goal to go at the 1. He will sneak it, stretching the football out, and now the ball is loose. The Chiefs say they've got the football at the 1. Did the Chiefs knock it out? They did. They hold and get a fumble recovery.
So that was early in the game, early second quarter, and Trevor Lawrence tries to do the old Drew Brees move, which he never messed up. Even though he was like a little under 6 feet tall, he always got it done, but it didn't work out there. That was Mitch Holthus, by the way, on KFNZ. And we've mentioned a few of the great plays, and I think that last drive encapsulated it. Like you mentioned, him taking the sack before he hits that 3rd and long to Thomas in the De'Ami Brown throw. He actually had 2 delay of games in this game, Trevor Lawrence. There was one on a 3rd and 10 as well. You mentioned the end of half sequence, which has been an issue no matter who the coach is, but I put this more on Liam Cohen in terms of how he used the timeouts, but that often happens. There was a play very early where Trevor Lawrence ran past the line of scrimmage and wasn't aware of that. And so that's all this bad stuff, but he also had a number of really good improv plays. I believe, did he end up leading the team in rushing? I know Patrick Mahomes did.
Yes.
Trevor Lawrence and Patrick Mahomes both led the team in rushing, and Lawrence ends up with 54 yards and 2 touchdowns on the day. So like you got the bad stuff, but man, you at least got enough of the magic. And I think now we're seeing with ETN and Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter, who had a good night, and then this defense, which is a little more creative, and the running game in general has been good this year. Like, if Trevor can give you enough of the good stuff, I think he's getting more help around him, and that's why they're 4-1.
Yeah, there was 2 seasons ago in which it felt like the pressure was really on them, and it was the season in which they had that collapse down the back half and missed the playoffs. And, in that season, Trevor was just full of near misses. Like you could see the talent, you could see the opportunity, and it was just a hair wide here, half a yard wide here, whatever it was. That just defined their season to me. And it's not that he has shed that now, but it's that the margin for error has increased because of who they've put around him, I think. Because I think tonight is a perfect example of that for them. The fact that they can make these mistakes, the fact that he can throw a pretty ugly pick that sets the Chiefs up with a great scoring opportunity. And it was an ugly pick because his receiver got knocked down, by the way. It wasn't really on Trevor. It's a timing play, and Parker Washington gets flattened by a DB. And well, you threw the ball where you thought he was going to be, and he didn't show up. I think that they can survive with this brand of football in the regular season. The one thing that you really need to fix, or at least clean up as it progresses toward November and December, is these small errors, is really the operation. They need more opportunities to run their 2-minute offense. They need to put him in pressure situations going forward to just get him more season. I know it's crazy to say this. He's on a very lavish contract, a lucrative deal. And you don't think that a quarterback like that still needs that. But let's think about all the games that he's missed because of injury over the last couple of years, too. It's not like he's played the most football. So if they can get all that stuff corrected, they're not going to go away. They're going to be in the conversation. And as of right now, they're one close loss to the Bengals in which they gave away that game, away from being undefeated right now. The Jacksonville Jaguars.
And they have some good wins in their pocket. Having the Chiefs win in their pocket, having the Texans win in their pocket for the tiebreakers later in the season. This division is as good as I can remember in AFC South division, and they're going to be tested because they play the NFC West out of division, and those are difficult games, and the Jaguars are about to hit an NFC West portion of their schedule. But the Colts, the Jags, and I have not given up on the Texans, who are a couple plays away from being 3-2 or 4-1 as well, and have a really good defense going into their bye week. The AFC South is alive, and I love it. Now, not everything is perfect in this game. Like, both teams, I think, were struggling to rush the passer. No Trayvon Walker for Jacksonville. It helps to explain why. Both teams were blitzing quite a bit, but not really getting a ton of pressure. And so I think that's a concern for both teams. Brenton Strange, who's having a great season as a tight end for the Jaguars, really been their number 2 receiver, sometimes their number 1 receiver, even ahead of Brian Thomas Jr. in terms of consistency. He left with a hip injury and was not able to return. So that is a concern. At least the last thing I want to get in before we leave this game, and if you have anything else, Shook, feel free to throw it in, is just we saw Travis Hunter's best game of the year.
Yes.
And just baby steps. There was that great catch he made down the field where he showed his athleticism. He had a nice play after the catch on a short pass where he just made a couple defenders look silly. And he had a number of nice plays in coverage, and he was on the field quite a bit. I believe over 35 snaps on offense, and last I checked, he was around 30 on defense. 3 times he was targeted, only gave up 1 short catch. And so progress, I think, here for the Travis Hunter believers like myself.
Yeah, that was the last thing that I wanted to talk about too. And I think anytime that you end up being the 2nd overall pick, you come in with an unfair amount of pressure and expectation, especially a guy like Travis Hunter, who was a highlight machine at Colorado. But what he's being asked to do has not been asked of anybody before, which is be an impact player on both sides of the ball. Now, he has an early pass breakup on a 3rd down throw to Travis Kelce that was very much designed to get Kelce open with a little bit of a crease, kind of a rub route, and he's in there. He gets away with being a little grabby there. That's an incompletion because he held down Travis Kelce's arm. But he's there to make the play. He's there to make a difference on offense. That one catch that you described, the athletic catch, I think it's between 2 defenders, made me say out loud, oh, nice. There's Travis Hunter. There's the guy that I expected to make a difference on this football team. And if you see the play, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see Trevor Lawrence is playing out of structure and in chaos. And Hunter essentially bails him out, which, by the way, he did a lot with Shedeur Sanders at Colorado as well. I mean, look at him. He's leaping up over Shamari Connor. Brian Cook's trying to come in and upend him. He grabs the ball. He gets flipped almost all the way over and hangs on to it for a huge gain. That is the type of play that this kid is capable of making. And I wonder, as we go deeper into the season, they're not super thin at receiver. Like, De'Ami Brown's going to play a part. Parker Washington somehow finds a way to make plays, even though he's a small receiver. He catches a touchdown pass tonight. They have options. But if they're really going to maximize their potential, Travis Hunter has to be a key part of it in the passing game, which will only be more beneficial to Trevor Lawrence and maybe get him more on track and less chaotic. So I'm really looking forward to see where he goes. And I think tonight was a great first step toward that, potential outcome.
I absolutely agree. And I think it's only going to get better as he gets a little more confident. And you saw him playing with the joy tonight. He I think he fires that team up with any play that he made. Huge smile, like going nuts. Ends up, I believe, with 35 snaps on offense and 25 snaps in the end on defense. So a clean 60 snaps. I mean, that's a lot, but it's nothing crazy. I mean, Jalen Carter's out there playing 60 snaps at defensive tackle. The other day, like that 60 snaps is a normal NFL workload. It's just, you have to figure out how to play multiple positions in one game. It's crazy. It's great. The Jags, who led the NFL in turnovers, takeaways, forced coming into the day, even before playing this Week 5 game, get that big pick 6. Don't forget about Devin Lloyd. This has been a big play defense, and they are 4-1. I love it when a good plan comes together, stamping the Jaguars as the messy, fun team of NFL Daily, the team we just are enjoying watching this journey last week, and then they come through like this. Good on you, Jaguars. All right, let's get to some news quickly before we get out of here on this Monday night, because I got to go to sleep, Shooky. I was on an 11 and a half hour flight today, off 2 hours sleep, and honestly, I feel good. I feel great. I'm wearing my Dodgers hat. If you're watching on YouTube, like, it's a great sports day, and I'm very glad to be home. But we'll hit a couple little news items, including couple different quarterback situations. Let's just combine them together. John Harbaugh, Zach Taylor both said on Monday that they're considering everything at quarterback. They're essentially considering a change. In the past, I've said that means the change is coming. For Harbaugh, it was a little less specific about quarterback. It was more about everything. They do have Tyler Huntley on their roster and could start him in Week 5 against the Rams for Cooper Rush potentially. And then Zach Taylor, this one caught my eye a little more, wasn't totally committing to Jake Browning as the quarterback. Brett Rippon is the other active quarterback on the roster. So you would assume that would be the choice, although they also have Mike White and Sean Clifford on their practice squad. Man, who would have thought the AFC South would be better than the AFC North this season? But I think we can call it. I mean, maybe there'll be a comeback, but they're pretty far ahead right now, the AFC South.
No, I feel pretty confident in saying that the AFC South's better than the North, because the South has all their quarterbacks. They've played better football overall. Look, the Cincinnati situation is dire. Like, they start 2-0, which is great. Hooray. Woo. We started 2-0. You lost Joe Burrow. You've lost 3 straight since then. And you've looked completely non-competitive in every single game that you've played since you lost Joe Burrow. Like even the Lions game, this final score looks respectable, but a lot of those points were scored when they were already trailing 28-3 and the Lions kept pouring it on. Like, this has been an abysmal offense over the last 3 weeks. Jake Browning, I understand, like, he's dealing with a lot. He's got an offensive line that's leaky. They have no running game. They just throw it up down the sideline 50-50 to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and hope for the best. And yes, he's made some poor decisions. He's thrown a lot of passes into traffic. He's produced some turnovers, but I don't see a better option. Like, Brett Rippon's going to help. Mike White, the same Mike White who once inspired Jets fans for, I don't know, a few weeks before, he fell back to earth. Like, there's no option here. And this is life in the NFL. If you lose a franchise quarterback and you've spent most of your money at the positions that take advantage of that franchise quarterback, you end up in a dark place. Baltimore, like, when they signed Cooper Rush, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. He doesn't fit their offense. Snoop Huntley has always worked there because he kind of fits what they like to do offensively, even as they've evolved. And maybe you thought Todd Monken could make it work.
Yes.
I think that's a no-brainer for me. After throwing 3 picks in a blowout loss, I would absolutely go back to Snoop Huntley right away.
So I watched that game on my flight home. Shout out to DAZN. I know it's a little divisive over in the UK. That's their version of Game Pass. I got to say, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble. It's better. It's better than our domestic version. You can download the games, first of all. That's the number one thing. But you can have the multi-screens while you're watching with, like, the 4 screens. The quality was really good. I was using it the last couple weeks. So I'm a fan of the product, but it helped me watch what I thought was an underrated Cooper Rush performance. This is the tiniest molehill of a take I'll ever say. They had the ball twice, and the score was already 17-7. to 3. He really didn't make that many mistakes. I know he ended up with 3 interceptions. They weren't really on him, and a couple of them just like late and unimportant. He was just there. Like no one, like Lamar Jackson was not winning that game. It obviously would have been more competitive, but their defense being the biggest tire fire in the entire NFL on either side of the ball is the story, because it was ridiculous how they just got absolutely hammered on the defensive side of the ball, and their running game absolutely stinks too, and their offensive line's not particularly good either. So I'm willing to give Cooper Rush like a little bit of a pass here. Jake Browning, I'm not going to give a pass to. So I kind of think, based on Zach Taylor's comments, if I had to guess, that we're getting Brett Rippon, which is weird. Doesn't seem like a good idea. Doesn't seem like a good idea.
Yeah, but when you have no other options left, anything's a good idea, because what else are you going to do?
I mean, Jake was slinging it back in 2023. He was slinging it a couple of years ago. By the fourth quarter of that game, he was helping out Jamar Chase and T. Higgins' fantasy owners.
Chase also made a really nice play in his touchdown grab.
He did, but that was a good throw too. I mean, one thing about Jake Brown, he'll give you a chance. The Bengals have a very difficult game against the Packers this week, so they're probably falling to 2-4. And it's crazy to think that the Ravens, it doesn't matter who starts at quarterback, they just need to get to their bye. And it'll probably be 1-5, and hope that Lamar Jackson can save them on the other side. I noticed a report, I'm going to throw this one by you, from the Philly Voice, that A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts had a private conversation, the three of them today, all had a really good talk that lasted hours, where they put everything on the table and they helped to straighten out whatever's going on there. Does that count as a players-only meeting if it's only 3 players?
It feels like a Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp breakfast, like pancakes and coffee type of meeting. Did they have a copy of that self-help book that A.J. Brown was leaning on? Like, were they quoting it during the meeting? That's what I want to know. Look, I'm tired of this repetitive narrative when they just don't find success offensively. Like, Saquon has not gotten going this year. They had to resort to the pass. It helped them come back and beat the Rams. Oh, everything's fixed. Oh, wait, no, it's not. You won another game. A.J. Brown's mad because he only caught 2 of his 9 targets. It's every week with this team. Like, I understand you finally lost the game, but my God, you're still one of the best teams in the NFL.
But something's going on. When Brandon Graham let the cat out of the bag late last season, that there was something going on in the personal relationship between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, and it's been backed up and confirmed and kind of talked about by other people that, they used to be really close, and sometimes life happens and things are like, there is something strange there. There's been kind of hints, maybe like the offense is really built around Jalen Hurts' strengths, and maybe those strengths don't match up exactly with what A.J. Brown wants to do. Who really knows?
What are you going to do? What are you going to pull a John Robinson and trade A.J. Brown and get crucified because of it?
Right. I think it's productive that they're trying to, get it squared away. It's just funny to me. And that was from Jimmy Kempski, our old friend at the Philly Voice, that they're talking for 3 hours. I just love this team who had a few listeners to the PHLY show, which I was listening to on my way out of the airport today, asking whether there was any chance Sirianni could be fired, like if this season goes sideways. They just lost their first game in like a calendar year that Jalen Hurts actually started and finished.
Look, I love Philly. When I was an intern at Films way back in the day and lived in South Jersey, I developed a love for the city, and that fan base is passionate. But for the love of God, guys, get a hobby. You lost one game. Let it rot. Let it play out.
Let's see how they respond to it. I think they'll respond well. It is now time for Who Delivered, presented by Uber Eats. And you know who delivered one of the most improbable wins I've ever seen in my life on Sunday? It was the Tennessee Titans. And you know who delivered an apology on Monday, not just to the fans, but to his players? It was Jonathan Ganon, their head coach. Let's listen.
Yeah, I actually, I woke up this morning and didn't feel great about it, honestly. And so in the team meeting, I addressed it. I apologized to Omari, apologized to the team. And I just told him I kind of let the moment of what happened get the better of me there. Obviously, like I try to be emotionally stable and calm because my job is to solve problems when during a game and kind of lead the charge on that. So it's not really who I am, who I want to be, and I told the guys that today.
On one hand, appreciate the accountability there by Jonathan Gannon. He is referring to an interaction that we didn't know about until it was posted on social media from a different camera angle, Shook, where he got in Amari DiMercado's face after dropping the ball, before scoring that touchdown. And then on his way out, like, kind of looked like he pushed him and got a little physical.
Yeah. I think this is a product. First off, I do want to tip my cap to him for delivering a sincere apology. That I felt that was very honest in what he said there. The accountability is great, right? But I think this is the product of a coach who entered year 3 with feeling some pressure, feeling like you have to deliver this year. And they get up to the 2-0 start. They lose a tough one in San Francisco. Totally fine. You lose again the following week to Seattle. Another close one, but wasn't really as close as the final score indicated. I mean, they got there. This one is inexcusable. This one is an absolute dark stain on his resume as a head coach. Because of the collapse and the way that it happened. And unfortunately, the collapse started with Amari DiMercado dropping the football right before the goal line. Like, he scores a touchdown there. They go up 20-6. That game's over. Tennessee is not coming back. They lack the firepower to come back. He left the door open by making that mental mistake. And in the heat of the moment, Ganon lost his composure. I think it's a simple product of the pressure and the heat of the moment and just letting your emotions get the best of you. So it's good that he took some accountability for it, but my God, they need a win in the worst way right now. And they're playing the Colts and Packers next. And I think he understands it's not going to get any easier. This is one they had to have.
I wish I remember who it was on Twitter, an ex-player that it just pointed out, like, these are the kind of moments that can lose a locker room a little bit. You know, you see a coach act like that and disrespect your player. Like, players will take any sort of tough coaching if they feel like it's fair and it's trying to help them. But putting your hands on someone on the way out, I think that's going to rub people the wrong way. I think he realized that. Maybe someone had to tell him that or not, but he realized like that's a line that you don't want to cross and is problematic for Gannon. So he's really facing the toughest time for him as an NFL head coach so far. That was Who Delivered, presented by Uber Eats. When football makes you hungry, get game day deals at Uber Eats, the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Wrapping up the show here on a great Monday night for the messiest fun team in the NFL, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Just with a few other injury notes, just wanted to let everyone know. Starting guard for the Broncos, Ben Powers, who's been part of their best offensive line, maybe the best offensive line in the league, going to injured reserve. Colts kicker Spencer Schrader is out for the season. They lost him during that win over the Raiders on Sunday, so they're going to have to figure out their kicker situation. Terrion Arnold, this is a big one. The starting cornerback for the Lions is going to be out, quote, a while. And if you remember, something we didn't talk about on the show, but last week they put DJ Reed, who's really their number 1 corner, on injured reserve. So they're going to be without their top 2 corners for a while. That's bad news for a team that's trying to win the Super Bowl. And by the way, as Patrick Mahomes and hot Chiefs defense next week, bad news for them. And then we'll wrap with Amarian Hampton. Shook going to injured reserve. Not sure if you got eyes on the Chargers game yet. I know you crank through all the games on Monday for your quarterback index, but tell me what you saw out of them and what you think, the challenges they're going to face without Amarian Hampton for at least the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, I got 2 left. It's been a banner day. So I'm watching this game back, and there's a period, I think, in the third or fourth quarter where Hassan Haskins is suddenly getting run. And it's like a pretty pivotal moment where the Chargers are trying to generate something offensively. They hadn't done anything since taking that early lead. And I'm like, why are they leaning on Haskins here? Why are they not going to Hampton? Oh, it's because he's hurt. It's a major downgrade. They already lost Najee Harris to the Achilles injury for the year. You knew that was bad, but you're like, we have Hampton. They'll be okay. Well, without both of them, I am now officially concerned for their running game. They have Hassan Haskins and they have Kamani Vidal left in that backfield. And you can be a huge fan of Vidal as much as you want, but those two are not. They're not Hampton. They're not Harris. It's just going to lead to a more unbalanced attack. It's going to take me back to the Chargers of a couple of years ago when they lost, a bunch of their offensive linemen and Herbert got hurt because he was under constant duress. He was kind of under constant duress in this game. And that's against the Commanders team with a defense that hasn't necessarily been all that great this season. And they got shut down. And so it does make me very concerned for their outlook offensively if they can't balance out this offense. Herbert's great. And I think that he'll still try his best to lead them to victories and produce, yards and points and everything else. But it does concern me that they're going to be a very pass heavy team now. And it's going to hold them back a bit.
Yeah. One of our friends in the comments, John Byrne, says that he didn't expect the Chargers to have to go to Vidal so soon. A little bit of a stretch. Pretty good.
Hey, that's a good food joke, but I wouldn't get it.
I know. Ending with a dad joke here. Late on Monday night, we're about 1 minute away, actually, from Tuesday morning for you, Shooky. And yes, it's about 5 a.m. for me where my body clock is. And so really appreciate everyone who told us they enjoyed the shows while I was overseas. And Ollie Connolly wanted to give a special thanks and tell everyone to check out his Read Optional Substack. I didn't mention that on the show last night. And both him and Will Gavin, we heard from people, really enjoyed their analysis. So we love that people can be flexible. They love the favorites. In fact, I was getting a drink with Ollie one night, and he said, I want to meet this Nick Shook. I want to give that man a hug. He was just like a big Shook fan. So the love is flowing over international waters, Shooky.
Yeah, I mean, I love to get on a plane and get out there. I don't know if I'm a big fan of it.
I know that flight, but next year, that is my goal. While I'm sending coded messages to our iHeart family. I did want to thank iHeart, by the way, too. Just instrumental in everything we do and the trip we had and really important to all of us. All right, we will be back on Tuesday. It is a massive show. We have been waiting all season long. Yes, it is the return of Quarterback Island on Tuesday. Colleen Wolfe, Steve Weish, myself, and Jordan Rodrigue will decide what 12 quarterbacks are going to stay on the island, who's getting booted off, and maybe we have room for a couple new quarterbacks. I got some ideas, Shooky. We will see you all on Tuesday.